You're listening to The Mark Cox Show. Follow Mark on Twitter at MarkCox971.
No one trusts you anymore. But fortunately, truth and liberty are stronger than you. And so am I. I will never be silent. You will not be able to stop me.
That's that Geert Wilders, the MP from the Netherlands who got found guilty of hate speech for virtually saying nothing offensive whatsoever. But three judges in that country have now labeled him someone who produces hate speech because he disagrees with them. And he's considered some sort of a radical in the Netherlands. So say your prayers tonight and read your copy of the Constitution, your pocket Constitution. I've got one signed by Ted Cruz that I keep in my drawer upstairs. Read it, learn it, live it, love it. There we go. Nice. All right, enough of the Fast Times at Ridgemont High references there. Let me tell you what, MetroLink want to expand MetroLink. We've talked about this before. Of course, we've had several expansion efforts and a couple of successful ones over the years, and it's usually been a long, grueling effort that ended up costing more than it was ever expected to begin with. Graham Ren is joining us right now from the Show Me Institute. ShowMeInstitute.org is the website. They've got an article up on this very issue today. Graham, how are you?
I'm doing well, Mark. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thanks for coming in. We appreciate that. So, I'm just looking back at this. There's no set path yet, but I think the one that the mayor preferred was some sort of a north-south route for MetroLink, correct? It would go right through the middle of the city?
That's right.
And down into the county, correct?
North County through downtown into South County.
And what are the estimates right now on what that might cost?
Well, it's going to cost at least $2.2 billion overall, and it's going to cost, we now know, local taxpayers. We want to think maybe it's just the city's going to have to pay for it, but now we know it's likely going to be the county too, and probably taxpayers far beyond that are going to have to come up with $1.4 billion of their own dollars to chip in for this.
You have to learn to say that right. It's billion. That's how Trump says it. Billions and billions. Yeah, you got to wonder about that because didn't the city just go to the state seeking money for this soccer stadium, right? So they're just trying to get some commitment for the state for millions of dollars for this soccer stadium they want to build. And now they're going to have to look somewhere. I'm sure a bunch of it would be federal dollars, but they're going to have to be some state money. And then they need to offset that with some local revenue. Well, I think maybe what a lot of people don't understand, we've certainly discussed it on this show before, is that as it exists, public transportation in St. Louis does not support itself.
No, absolutely not. And you mentioned the MLS stadium. One of the things that makes me scratch my head and really wonder what folks are thinking about is that we're going to ask for $1.4 billion for the MetroLink. We're going to ask for $80 million for a soccer team, and now we know another $40 million from the state. We're throwing tens of millions of dollars away on these developments that we don't need to be every year, and it just makes how many big pie in the sky projects can we throw our money at, and projects we know we're not going to see any return on? We've got to stop asking taxpayers, got to stop asking folks like you and I to cough up even more of our money just for these projects to go forward that we're not going to benefit from.
And one thing you guys mentioned in your article is that Mayor Slay had talked about raising parking revenues to offset this. Why doesn't that work?
Well, it works just because of basic math. The parking division right now for the city of St. Louis for this last year revenued $16 million. Okay? Right now, the city and the county throw hundreds of millions of dollars at MetroLink just to keep it running. Okay, so there's no chance that raising parking fees alone is going to bring in enough revenue to help build this new extension, let alone pay for it. We're looking at what we need over the next 30 years. If you forecast this, we're talking about at least $60 billion a year just to build this MetroLink, and that's not including the tens of millions it's going to cost to run it. So increasing parking fees, unless he's going to times them by 10, we're not going to come anywhere close. And that makes that brings us to the point where folks far outside the city and probably far outside the county are going to have to chip in for this if it's going to happen.
Makes you wonder what. I wonder where Tashara Jones stands on this. I mean, I haven't specifically seen anything from her, but she's running for mayor. She currently runs the parking division, right? Collecting fines and all that stuff. Speaking of which, does that 16, maybe I don't know if you know the answer to this or not, does that 16 million include all of the fines that they charge you if you're 2 minutes late and the parking lady's sitting there ready to write you a ticket when you walk back out?
I believe it does, but I'm not positive, so don't quote me.
I just wondered because that irritates me to no end, only because I got a ticket recently. But, besides that, if you don't pay it in 15 days, it doubles. I mean, it's just craziness. They probably match their income from the meters every year just in fines. I'm just wondering, which is completely off our subject today. So even if they netted 16 million, I mean, that's a drop in the bucket to what this is going to cost. There's no way it would offset the cost of this.
Absolutely not. And that's why, and originally we thought the federal government's going to give us free money, right? We all know it's not free money.
Right.
We thought they were going to give us 50% of the cost for this project. We know that's not the case anymore. We're only going to get only $800 million.
Oh.
So $1.4 billion is going to have to come from St. Louis to fund this thing, just to build it. Again, not to operate it. And again, how many projects can we pay for? Can we pay for the stadium? It goes on and on and on. It makes you wonder what the real worth of these projects are when there's so many of them coming out.
Let me take this opportunity to point out to those of you out there, because it's an issue right now, who think they may find some way to throw their support behind some sort of a city-county merger, or the city being brought back into the county as another municipality. These are the kinds of decisions made by the city of St. Louis that make the possibility of that impossible. It is no longer possible because all it's going to do is heap that burden onto the backs of the taxpayers of the county. But it might already, because they already have MetroLink running in the county. But correct me if I'm wrong, what you specifically mentioned is the city would like to put this in whether the county goes along with it or not?
It's the city's preferred route. And some of it would be in the county, but the county is also looking at 3 different other MetroLink expansions.
Okay. But they probably couldn't do they're going to do one or the other, correct?
That's all up in the air, and that's part of the politics of it right now.
Wow.
Yeah. So
be afraid. Be very afraid. And you see, I just got back from New York City, and my wife and I we use the subway quite a bit. And we both thought, this is great. It's very convenient. Beats the heck out of taking a cab. Downtown Manhattan is packed at all hours with cars. Getting around there is rough. And you think to yourself, boy, wouldn't it be nice to have a public transit system that operated like that? But I wonder, in this day and age, I'm not sure St. Louis could ever, first of all, accomplish that because of the cost. And the fact that this area is so spread out. And I think there's some pie-in-the-sky idea that we've got to keep providing more and more and more public transit, but I'm not sure the use justifies it. Did your study look at that at all?
We've looked at this, and like you say, Mark, it doesn't really make sense here in St. Louis. The region is so spread out that trying to kind of build a cost-efficient light rail system is just not possible. If you look at the statistics, more folks commute into St. Louis County than into St. Louis City. Less than 1% of commuters in St. Louis take MetroLink to get to work. There aren't the job centers in the center of the city like big metropolises like New York. It doesn't make sense here. And in fact, when the last expansion for MetroLink opened in 2006, because it built so much, but it didn't increase ridership, at least not for very long. We hit the recession, ridership plummeted, and now today there's fewer folks riding the entire system than there were just riding the bus system before MetroLink even opened.
Wow. Eye-opening. I encourage you to go to the website, showmeinstitute.org, read more on it. Graham Ren, thank you.
It's a pleasure to be here, Mark.
Appreciate having you guys in here every Friday. We certainly do. Thank you. Hey, stick around. When we come back, we are going to talk to the folks at the Fox News Channel. We've got a reporter, Greg Palcott, who's been over in London. It's kind of getting back to what Brigitte Gabriel was talking about as well a few minutes ago, and a little bit of panic over there with what's going on with this Muslim population that's sort of moved in to parts of the European Union. That, and we're going to talk more coming up about a new book that's out if you're looking for a stocking stuffer for the holidays. It's all coming up on the Mark Cox Show. Stick around.
You're listening to The Mark Cox Show. Follow the show on Facebook, facebook.com/The Mark Cox Show.